All right, it is that time once again to hit the books here, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. I'm merely Brad Powers. In today's episode, we are previewing the ACC divisions. No more different winner in the Coastal each and every year. It seemed like forever. It is a, hint, hint, wink, wink, pretty much a two-team league. Now that you remove divisions, we'll talk about those two teams here in a second. Before I get into anything, though, let's pay the bills. Keep in mind, Hit the Books brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. Save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it helps support the show. Knish, ACC, we're talking no more divisions, no more Coastal. Obviously, the two best teams were in the Atlantic side. It is Florida State. It is Clemson. I'm anxious to see if you sprinkled anything as far as any Mr. Longshot future on anybody else. But my goodness, before we dive in deep into those two teams, I mean, I think they're power rated more than a touchdown better than anybody else in the ACC, talking Clemson and Florida State compared to anybody else.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you said, looks like a two-team. I mean, now that I think that without the the poor man's Coastal here, it makes the league definitely a little bit more cut and dry here. Hey, I like the Jeff Brom hire. Obviously, North Carolina with Drake May and that. It just seems like that there's really nobody, though, even with those things. I'm not, even that bullish on either of those, two teams in the next year. It does seem like we're heading towards a top two-team league. I will say, though, we might have a little disagreement in terms of those top two, in terms of who should be really the top dog here. And the other thing is, the bottom of this league, I will say, there's a few formerly proud programs that have fallen on some hard times, and we'll, maybe a couple of coaches here, on the hot seat there. I don't know if Mr. Babers should be too comfortable in there and start seeing what's going on, and so I'm excited to see, and Mr. Elliott, and even in year two here, he needs to bounce back here. So interesting conference top to bottom, but I agree with you that this is a big two, little little whatever numbers are remaining there.
So, little 12, yeah.
Yeah, little. So, but yeah, in terms of the top two, let's see what we got here.
Yeah, let's talk, instead of talking with Clemson, the defending champs, let's start with Florida State. Everyone's, favorite team as far as taking that next step. They took the next step, last year as far as getting to 10 wins for the first time since 2016, returning a ton of production, as much as anybody in the entire country as far as returning production on both offense and defense. You look at the offense, top 10 total offense last year, top 20 in scoring offense. Jordan Travis, provided he can stay healthy, was one of the most improved quarterbacks in the country the last couple of years. The 9.7 yards per scramble, so a guy that can beat you both with his legs and his arm. They're loaded at running back. Wide receiver, Johnny Wilson is 6'7", provided he can not drop it. I mean, he can be a talent there. I think the big reason they've taken a step in the last couple of years is the improvement on the offensive line. For several years, it was among the very worst at the Power 5 level. Now they have more returning career starts than anybody in the history of college football. 207 career starts on that offensive line for Florida State. Defense, they might have the best defensive player in the country, Jared Verse. At least he'll be probably most likely the first defensive player taken in next year's draft off the edge. So lots to like about this Florida State team. Schedule difficult early. They have to play LSU, obviously, in that marquee game in week 1 in Orlando, and then they play at Clemson also in September. Other than that, they're going to be favored in the remaining 10 games.
I'm a buyer. I am a buyer on the Florida State team, the Florida State program. And as you said, though, they come out of the gate, swinging there. Big game versus LSU. If it could be one of those things. If they want a playoff or a national title type run, probably a game they have to have. And then at Clemson. And then, I will say they did not get the easiest break here in terms of schedule. Obviously, they end the season with the Florida game, but in the middle, they've got to go, at Wake Forest there, at Pitt. It's not they didn't. It's going to be a challenging schedule, but in terms of the overall team, I mean, they got Keon Coleman from Michigan State, fantastic grab out of the portal to add to an even more loaded offense.
Good point.
All the returnings there. I think the defense will be good enough. For me, they're the team to beat, baby. I know there's a lot of Clemson fans out there, that run around in our circle. For me, I think they are the team to beat here in the ACC. It doesn't set. I think Clemson's set up in terms of their schedule sets up a little bit nicer. Obviously, they bring Florida State in, but to me, I think they're the team to beat. I think they're the best team in the conference, and they would be the team that I think will get it done and win the conference.
Yeah, you're not going to get a disagreement with me. I mean, I also bet Florida State to win the conference. I bet both teams at plus money to win the conference. I bet Jordan Travis to win the Heisman, and it was one of my bigger Heisman bets. That's how much I like him at quarterback. So you're not going to get too much disagreement from me. And also, maybe you kind of got to like Florida State in the rematch. I don't like them to go into Clemson. Obviously, Clemson's about a 3-point favorite in that one. I think deservedly so. It's a fair line. I haven't bet that one. In the rematch, maybe you got to like Florida State in that one on a neutral setting in the ACC championship game. So, my question is, if you like them so much, are we going over 9.5 here? Because that's relatively widely available, over 9.5 wins for the Noles.
I like I haven't placed it personally because I know schedule wise because this is a team that could come out out of the gates 2-2 and still still go on to win the ACC but I mean obviously you've got LSU and you've got a road game at Clemson to start the season and then your margin of error would be kind of zero going from there. So I haven't placed it to be honest with you. If I'm out there betting, was looking for more of the the ACC number that was getting up was hoping for a little better price, even though it's kind of fluctuated depending on where you're at between them and Clemson. I haven't placed it. It would be a lean for me, but not something I've invested in personally.
So and we'll see if you disagree. I'm going to give Zach homework throughout this broadcast, but I think
like that
one of the better conference future positions that you can take portfolio is I like Clemson. You like Florida State. I'm not, I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on Clemson, why you're not liking them, but I also like Florida State. Are we not? And I've done this already. Let's just bet the best number we can find conference future for both teams. I'll be stunned. We're going to get plus more than 150 on both teams. Let's just make those two bets. We expect either Florida State or Clemson to win the league. And I think we take a very profitable position there. Do you disagree with that?
No disagreement. I mean, as you said, now without the division, they probably play each other. And even if they don't, one of them gets there and then is a big favorite over, whoever else gets in there. So, I agree with you. This is kind of a very cut and dry at the top delineation there, especially because we'll get into it. These next few teams, I'm not a big buyer on. So, no, you get no disagreement from me on that position.
So, again, Zach, that is Clemson, Florida State, best conference future odds to win the ACC. We'll take both Florida State, Clemson there at as long as we can find plus 150 or more on both. Let's talk Clemson. Well, I am a big believer in Clemson this year. I like the fact that finally Dabo realized that, hey, maybe I need to change up some things. I like him to change up his position as far as his stance on the transfer portal a little bit, but he does go outside the quote-unquote family as far as offense coordinator, brings in Garrett Riley from TCU. I think that'll be much needed considering what we've seen from that Clemson offense the last couple of years. Sans Trevor Lawrence. Cade Klubnik, I expect to be improved as a sophomore compared to what he was at the end of last season as a freshman. Will Shipley still there at running back. Offensive line is okay. I don't know if it's as good as what they had 3-4 years ago. Wide receiver position is not as good as what they had when they were winning national championships in 2016 and 18. I will give you that. Defense side of the ball, I think the front seven is good as anybody in the country, sans Georgia. So I like that. I think the secondary is improved just because they'll stay healthier than what they were a year ago. And the reason why I'm a believer in Clemson, I mean, their toughest games are at home this year, sans, at South Carolina in the finale. They get North Carolina, Florida State, Notre Dame all at home. They'll be highly motivated, particularly in that Notre Dame game. And they've only lost one home game. I mean, going back to 2016 at the end of that season. So I did play over 9.5. You can still find that. I think it's going to be juiced up there a little bit. I would recommend that over 9.5. I just don't see them tripping up 3 times. Maybe someone catches them. Maybe 2 teams catch them. And they don't live up to expectations. But I still think over 9.5 is a solid bet. Tell me why, I shouldn't be, smoking all this Clemson and, love.
Smoking the Clemson back. So I will say, here's what I think. There's a separation between, betting over 9.5 and, to win the ACC, which I don't mind, versus this team being a national title contender, which I don't believe. So, I think I so much riding on Garrett Riley coming in and fixing this offense, which was just morbid a season ago. Even when Club, and I know a lot of people are banging the drum, Club, but I'm not saying he was in there, and I know he should look better this year. Year progression, much better offensive coordinator. I don't know. I still need to see something from him that makes me think that he's a special college talent, which.
Good point.
I got to believe it to see it. And I say some of the offensive line, the wide receiver talent, as you mentioned, I don't think is anywhere in the elite realm. Defense should be good, even though it did lose, a couple of their elite players to the draft last year. But again, still should be very good. But I don't think, in terms of this team's ceiling, I think it's a 10-2 an ACC title, a fringe playoff. Even if they got in the playoff, do I see this team competing with the elites of the college football? I just don't see it. I think they're kind of a step below all those. So for me, it's none of the, national title or any of that stuff. I am a pass on. If you want to tell me that 9.5 though, and kind of building the portfolio with them in the ACC, totally fine with that. But I think they're a little bit below Florida State. I got to tell you, too much juice for me. Too much juice for me. If you still want it, take it. I'm not laying minus 170.
There's other bets. We'll have a few season win total bets. Again, best numbers, building the position here. Florida State plus 185 at FanDuel, plus 155 for Clemson, Bet Rivers, Canby Books. We're going to build a portfolio of that to win the ACC. I love that position, Florida State and Clemson, to win the conference. I'm saying it multiple times because I can't recommend it enough. That's probably, I bet like 35 conference futures, and I feel very confident that with my ACC portfolio among any of the conferences. Let's talk a couple of teams that can maybe make a run at it. I think we're going to have some disparity here in maybe our positions or our thought processes. I'll start with North Carolina. I know there's some disagreement with the market. I bet an early over 8. I just, outside of a road trip to Clemson, I don't think they're, worse than hardly any of the teams on their schedule. I think it's a relatively manageable schedule. I don't like the coaching. I know you can expound on how much you hate Gene Chizik on the defense side of the ball. One thing I do love, I love Drake May at quarterback. Obviously right there with Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Offensively, even though they lose the OC, I think they'll be just fine on that side of the ball. I like a couple of their transfer wide receivers that they're bringing in. I like the overall talent level of the team. Keep in mind, their senior, junior, and sophomore classes were all ranked in the top 15. The question is, are they getting developed, particularly on the defense side of the ball? Not sure that's the case, but, this was a 9-win team a year ago. I think they can be possibly a 9-win team this year, again, with Drake May back at quarterback. What say you?
You know what? We might have our first head-to-head here, baby.
All right.
And our first, it's good. It's good. We're all in lockstep on the Pac-12. We've been in lockstep so far. I'm a fader of this UNC team. I agree with you on the recruiting rankings that, they're in terms of the talent they've been able to bring in and Drake May and all that. I don't believe in this coaching staff. And I think, they've got some games here, especially in the early slate. I don't think they match up too well against. I'll be honest. App State coming in, Minnesota, and then at Pitt. This is
very tough for September. As tough as anybody in the country.
Sometimes I say crazy stuff on this podcast, as we know. I wouldn't be surprised if after 4 weeks this team was sitting at 1-3. I tell you, I wouldn't be surprised of that. I'm not a team.
Do you like them again? Do you like South Carolina against them?
You know what? I think a little bit of a coin flip there. I know that's taking a little back and forth. But even if they get that game, I think the next 3 are going to be, really tough games. So
beat App State. Come on, man, they're going to be a double-digit favorite.
Physical team, baby. That's this. I don't think this Gene Chizik defense. First of all, I can't believe he's still the DC after this. I don't believe in his defense. They lost. I don't believe in the talent level of the defense. Even if some of the guys are transferred out, I'm not a Chizik believer. I think it takes too much. Drake May wizardry to keep this going. Obviously, with Longo going out the door, so I'm not about. I don't believe in the direction that they're heading under the MAC. I just am not a believer in where the program's at. Not a believer in the defense. Not a believer in the coaching staff and the schedule. Even though they they don't have Florida State, they've got a really tough non-con. And then some games, at NC State, at Clemson, even a couple of tricky at Miami, at Georgia. Hey, I think this is a 6 or 7 win team, not a 9-win team.
Zach, whatever you think the fair number is, 8.5. It looks like it's going to be 8.5. I'll take over. He can go under. I did, full disclosure, I bet over 8 on that, but I'm looking at the schedule. I don't see Clemson's the surefire loss. Now, I don't think they have. There's a bunch of games that could be toss-ups, but I got the better quarterback in all those games, in my opinion, provided he stays healthy. So, all right, 8.5. Now, one of my favorite positions to be going against you, Knish, on this one, because I think there's some very sharp people that took the 8.5 there, but I'll go ahead and take under 8.5. You take, I'll take over 8.5. You take under 8.5. That'll be a head-to-head bet there for shits and giggles here. Let's talk a few other teams, which we're not going to break down all 14 teams because I don't think the league is overwhelmingly interesting, especially when you're so top heavy. Louisville, a team that I think almost everyone agreed on was not priced appropriately, at least at the start a couple months ago when their win total opened up at 7.5. Because I think all of us agree that the Jeff Brom hire is a home run. Can't think of anybody better for the job. I also don't think that people understand that not only for this year, but moving along towards the future, Louisville's got deep pockets. So you're going to be seeing Louisville winning some of these recruiting battles for some high 4 stars, maybe a borderline 5-star player every now and then with Brom, just because, it's about NIL. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised they just got a kid, out of Miami, Florida, an edge player that's reclassifying for this year, a high 4-star kid. Schedule-wise, very beneficial. And that's why a lot of us we're betting over 7.5. There's just not a lot of surefire losses on the schedule when you look at it. So I think it's a great fit. Plummer's not a great quarterback, but he knows the system transferring because, from Cal, he played under it when he was at Purdue. I don't know. I just think that they've upgraded the coaching staff. Schedule's nice, over 7.5, no longer available. I'm not running to bet over 8.5. I can tell you that. But were you part of this Louisville money?
No, I agree with on that 7.5 opening. As you said, schedule very, very opportunistic here. They missed Florida State and Clemson in that. And there's not many games where you're like, absolute, loss there and that. The problem would being that, as you said, in terms of the roster, I would have liked to see what, Jeff Brom could have done here, some years prior with the Louisville team that I think had better players and significantly underperformed under Satterfield. I just think it's going to a little bit of time for them to really be, and that's not me saying, I want to take an under position, because you saw what Brom did last year at Purdue, taking a team, to the Big Ten championship game there. That was by no means the most talented team in that division, but it's going to take a little bit. I think they'll obviously have some, easier to recruit at Louisville and Purdue, as you said. They've got they're injecting some cash into the program. You get Murray State here, you get Indiana, who's a corpse in the Big Ten. So very, very opportunistic, year for them. I mean, this could be a sneaky team if things break right. Could they get to, 9 to 10 wins, 10-2, maybe an ACC title game berth? Sure. It's just, I wish they had a little bit more on both sides of the ball for me to feel like, I'd want to go out and back them at the current prices or at an ACC, title game price. Obviously, early market was wrong, but at what we're staring at now, it's a no play me just based off, as you said, not Jack Plummer. I just would have loved to say they've had some crazy wide receiver talent, Malik Cunningham. If they had some of that stuff again, coming back, I just think there's going to be a year of roster turnover here that Brom needs to bring in some more players.
Keep an eye on Jamari Thrash, a wide receiver. I thought Brom did do a good job in the portal, top 10 transfer class. He had to because they only have 10 returning starters. So that's a kid to keep an eye on. But yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm not recommending it now. It's just mispriced at the open. And I am more of a buyer of Louisville. I think it's going to be a consistent top 25 program moving forward under Brom. You look what he inherited at Purdue and what he did at Purdue. I know people are like, oh, he's right around 500. Well, yeah, he inherited like an 8-36 Purdue team the previous 5 years. It made him 500. So you can only imagine what he could do with an underperforming Louisville program since, obviously Lamar Jackson graduated several years ago. Let's talk Miami, another kind of a lightning rod program under Mario Cristobal here. A disaster, to say the least, in year one. I mean, this is a program that covered one game against FBS opponents. They failed to cover by an average of 12 points per game. You want to talk about falling short of expectations. Obviously, the state mark loss was losing to Middle Tennessee, getting dominated as a 25-point favorite in that game to Middle Tennessee. Not even that great of a Middle Tennessee team, to say the least. We're not competitive in many of the ACC games. Clemson, Florida State absolutely drilled them. I am here to tell you they are improved. I like what he did. Obviously, recruiting, that's what he's known for. They did some good job in the portal, I thought. I think Tyler Van Dyke being healthy, getting your buddy Speed and Space out of there, as far as Josh Gaddis and removing him from the mix, I think is going to be addition by subtraction there. If there's a team that has the talent level to make a run, are they going to win the ACC championship game against the Florida State or Clemson? No. But could I see them making a surprise appearance out of nowhere or winning 8-9 games? I'm not opposed to this Miami team. What say you?
You know what? This is kind of what I would like and I'm all for players getting their own, getting money. I don't mind any of that stuff. I'm not, one of those old men that, the game. I think this is the danger of when you're taking a bunch of talent that is like coming to you based on money. They're not coming for program. They're not coming. They're coming. I think Texas A&M is, they ran through this the first couple of years when it was like, okay, now we can pay guys. Let's go buy up whoever wants to come here for money. And you kind of didn't establish a football coach. It just feels to me like they're not a serious football program. Like I need and I agree with you. Like just players on the field, they'll be better. Getting rid of Josh Gaddis, as you said, addition by subtraction. I don't care who that. Shannon Dawes. I don't have a huge opinion of him. I like him better than Josh Gaddis. So I'll give you that. No matter what. Because their organization on offense under him was just embarrassing. So. I think they'll be better, but am I, a total believer in this program? They play at no fan base. There's nobody there. Yeah. I don't think the program itself, even though Cristobal is a great recruiter, in terms of like establishing a culture, like it feels a very unserious program where guys aren't, you go to Alabama or a Georgia or a Michigan, it's like you like being on an NFL team in terms of their discipline, their strength coordinator, all that stuff. This feels like, a bunch of, mercenaries that came in to take a bag and they really taking it. So I'm just not a buyer in the staff for the program right now, even though obviously they should have better players than most of the teams are going to go up against.
Mention a few other teams that catch my fancy a little bit. Let's talk Duke. Now we're not talking ACC basketball here. We're talking a team that won 9 games in football a year ago. Under a first-year coach of Mike Elko. They overachieved by anybody's stretch of the imagination. I like what I see as far as returning production. I like Mike Elko quite a bit. I like Riley Leonard at quarterback. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. What I don't like about Duke this year is the strength of schedule, going from not playing Clemson, Florida State. Let's throw Notre Dame in the mix because they play a bunch of ACC teams every year. They didn't play any of those teams. Now all of a sudden they play all those teams this year. And I just think, how do they handle expectations? Is everybody going to be, chalking them up as a W, or are they going to take Duke seriously this year? I think that does matter as far as preparation. I think everybody plays hard once the game kicks off for the most part, but what are you doing in preparation? They're not taking Duke lightly this year. So I know there's some resistance in the marketplace, but even though I think they're a better team than a year ago and won 9 games a year ago, I took under 6.5. So what say you on the Blue Devils?
Yeah, schedule, obviously, murderer's row there. At a team that, with a bunch returning and a good coaching staff, that it's still just going to make it tough to achieve, anything remotely close to what they were getting. Now, I know you were a week 1 fader there with Clemson coming in. That is
it's all number, man. I took 9.5. I wouldn't bet it now.
Yeah, I was fascinated. I'm honestly with there's I know some 13s out there. I honestly lean.
You like Duke in that one?
I'm not as bullish on Clemson as most, but I would. But at a 14, let me tell you something. I'm a buyer at Duke at a 14. Now,
We will
granted, they got a
see.
couple.
We will see what happens there because I'll go against you on that one.
Okay. A little weak one here. We've got some mixing it up with the Dukies, but now, granted, now after that, even if they drop the, we've got the Lafayette, the Corpus Northwestern, UConn there to kind of get it rolling. Obviously, once it gets into the ACC, it's going to be tough. But I'm kind of, I lean towards just, believing in the return and believing in this coaching staff. Again, it's really going to come down, that middle of the schedule there is going to be, with tough with Notre Dame and Florida State and at Louisville there. It's like, can they clean up that in that, the Lafayette, Northwestern, and Connecticut games and then finish on the back end strong? So it's tough. They don't have elite level talent. I believe in the staff. To be honest with you, gun to my head, I'd probably, would even go Oppo on there and lean over with, thinking they can get to 7-5. But it's not something that I back there. I would need it to come down even a little bit more there before I'd go there. But yeah, it's a program that I kind of believe in. But as again, ceiling wise, they're not going to win the ACC. And as you said, they've got just a bunch of rough games here, at the front end and the back end.
I'm going to talk a little bit Pittsburgh, and then I'll open the floor to you. Any teams? I think we're going to have maybe possibly a position on Syracuse, fading them. Hint there. But Pitt team, I'm not a big Narduzzi guy. I think he's a meathead, obviously. But, man, for what they recruit and what they end up developing on the defensive side of the ball, they do it about as well as anybody. I mean, for what they put in the pros, they bring in 3 stars, they leave as 4 stars. So I do think they do a good job there. Jerkovic, I think, will be an upgrade at quarterback. He goes back to where, who was his offense coordinator at Boston College, Signetti. I mean, his best year was a couple years ago when those two were paired together. I don't think it's a high ceiling team, but I think it's a low floor, a high floor team, I should say. So not a high ceiling, but a high floor. I did bet over 6.5. Did you take part in that?
I haven't invested, in any of the regular season win stuff, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I think, last year when Nardog was like, we're going, we had the great Mark Whipple, Kenny Pickett season. I was like, and then he's like, wow, we got to go back to run the ball. And I was like, I was down on Pitt last year based on some of that philosophy, but then they come in and they have another, a great year to back it up. And, as you said, the defense still plays well. They kind of, they recruit better than a lot of, it's kind of that middle tier in the ACC. I agree with. I can't go too against it. I know some people that I've been, get down for liked that Pitt -1 at West Virginia, and I think it's week 3 there. And I know you're a little higher in West Virginia than some others. Even myself, I'm not too down on West Virginia as some others. But that was one, a game a year that I know some people that I was betting for liked, but. I agree. They seems like I agree. A little bit of a quarterback upgrade. The defense is going to be solid. They play a brand of football that I think is tough for a lot of the ACC teams, the lower tier, to go against. So, yeah, I don't mind. The 6. I'm not super bullish on them, but again, they're a team that's going to go 3-4? No, I think they'll be kind of in that 6 to 8 win range where Narduzzi kind of butters his bread there.
Yeah, I don't know if 6.5 is still available. If it is, I think it might be juiced out. But if you can find it, I think that's worth a bet there on Pittsburgh over. There you go, Zach. Yeah, not recommending -190. Nardog's all right. He's won 20 games the last 2 years, but I'm not laying 190 in a pro Nardog situation there. So no, we'll pass on that one. Let's talk a few of the other teams in the league at the bottom half here. Syracuse, if we can find 6.5, I'd like to go under 6.5. I think,
I'm with you.
Obviously they overachieved last year. Then the schedule, the injuries, the lack of depth caught up with them. They lose a lot. They lose both coordinators, which I think is the devastating blow for them because I liked who they had at coordinators, both OC and DC a year ago. I don't believe in Syracuse too much this year. I think they're 6-6 team at best. So if we can find that, I'll go under. Are you in agreement there?
No, totally. I'm with you. Now, granted, they a couple of cupcakes to start on the schedule, but I don't see 7 wins coming back again with the coordinator turnover, the quarterback turnover. They lose their best player in Sean Tucker. And just an area that if I want to let Dino off the hook, it's like impossible to recruit that upstate New York to keep the talent inflow coming. They never are going to have that. They've even got Army game, which would be tough for them. They have Clemson and Florida State and at UNC and Pitt and Wake. I don't see it. I think it's a 6-win at MAC, and it wouldn't be surprising me if they were, a 4-8 type team, because they're some toss-up games that I think could go their way or not go their way towards the end of the year. So, outside of those, couple cupcake wins to start the year, I think it's going to be a rough year for them. So yeah, under 6.5 there. I don't see that anyway. They repeat 7.
Yeah, shout out to Zach there for that under 6.5, or for Syracuse under 6.5. Before we talk other teams, we got a sponsor for this one. Let's talk Circa Million 5 and Circa Survivor here. If you're not familiar with the Circa Million and the Circa Survivor, $14 million in guaranteed prizes. $14 million. Do I have your attention with that? There is no rake. Also, a big positive there for the Circa Million and Circa Survivor. So if there's entries that go far and above the guarantee, all extra money is going to go to the prize pool. Entries have opened. They've been open since the end of May. They close September 9th at 2 p.m. You must, though, register in person at a Circa Sportsbook in Nevada. That's Las Vegas, Henderson, or if you're up north in Sparks and Reno. Weekly picks can be made through a proxy that you'll have to register with from anywhere. The difference between if you're not familiar, Circa Million, Circa Survivor, Circa Million. And this is NFL. Keep in mind, this is NFL. I know we're doing college, but this is an NFL contest. Circa Million, $6 million in guaranteed prize, $1,000 per entry, maximum of 5 entries per person. You pick 5 teams against the spread, NFL each week. Winner takes home with the best spread record, $1 million. There's quarterly and season-long prizes. The entry that does the worst, there is a booby prize. They take home $100,000 if you have the worst ATS record for the season. Circa Survivor, a different contest that they're offering up, $8 million in guaranteed to the winners. There can be multiple. It's $1,000 per entry with maximum of 10 entries per person. You pick one team straight up every week to win. We're not talking to cover, to win straight up. If the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick one team, each team once in a season. So if you're taking the Chiefs in week 1, you can't take the Chiefs, obviously, in week 7. You got to go 20-0 or be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, they get the entire $8 million pot. If multiple people go 20-0, or if there are multiple people eliminated the same week to reduce the contest to 0, they split the pot. 20-0. I know you're going to say, hey, there's how do you get to 20? There's not that many weeks in the NFL. Thanksgiving and Black Friday combined for a week. Christmas Day is its own week. So keep that in mind. That is the Circa Million 5 and the Circa Survivor sponsoring Hit the Books here, our college
These
show.
contests have taken over the NFL. I mean, you've been in Vegas a long time, where a lot of places would too. These places these contests at Circa have basically become the gold standard here. Whereas, yeah. I mean, with the guaranteed money and all the play, it's just been, these are the ones you got to be in now. And I think the numbers that they get every year in these kind of reflect that.
Certainly, and I'm a college guy at heart, but I mean, no question, they've taken over. There's a lot of other contests out there, but I'm taking my Circa, polo off for, figuratively speaking. I'm not going to do that to Knish, but
not for free.
To take that off, look, it is the contest. If you want to do a national contest, those are the two that you want to do, especially as far as NFL goes. Let's talk a few other teams. ACC, getting back to it here. Wake Forest loses Sam Hartman, and I've seen some anti-Wake Forest sentiment out there. I don't like going against Dave Clawson, who I think's one of the very best in college football for getting as much bang for his buck. If you're telling me it's 6, I'm certainly not interested in that. We've seen some friends of the program tailgates under 6.5. I can see it as far as my numbers, but I personally have not bet that one. I just don't like fading Dave Clawson. And I think they're still okay at quarterback and wide receiver as far as that mesh offense goes. Virginia Tech has fallen on hard times, to say the least. They're off their worst season in 30 years. They'll be improved, but I don't see them making a bowl. Virginia is as bad as any Power 5 program in the country right now. Both, had the unfortunate incident off the field last year. Georgia Tech, I don't see it with a first-year coach. Boston College, this could be it for Hafley, a guy that I think will be out of work for a couple of days if he gets fired there, because I think he's a really good defensive coordinator. anybody, NC State, I forgot. I mean, I think of all the teams that we haven't mentioned yet, they got the best shot of at least making a little bit of noise, but I'm not a huge Brennan Armstrong fan. Any teams that you, got involved with as far as bets?
No, I saw, there's some interesting back and forth there on Wake Forest. I know 10, some others were on the under 6.5. Right angle comes back on the over 6. Again, no position for me on them, but I agree with you on, not wanting to bet against that coaching staff there. Tony Yelly, I think the under 3.5s are juice now, but on Virginia, I just think that that program under him and the kind of their channel level, losing even Brennan Armstrong there, it just seems like a dead team walking at Virginia. I'm a little bit higher on Georgia Tech than some. I think even where you get some potential there. It looks like they're kind of changing up the scheme a little bit to go a little bit more physicality they want to bring in. Now whether that works or not, we'll see. But I liked after they got rid of Brown Keaton there, they kind of have a potential to be maybe a little bit of an overachiever this year. Would be the one of that bottom tier that I think could make some noise, not in terms of like winning the conference or anything, but some noise. But I think we're in lockstep there that of Syracuse being a fade and Virginia being a fade and Boston College being on really hard times there. So yeah, it's just a couple of those programs where the ceilings and kind of the talent they can is tough. So yeah, I'm we'll see what can happen for the bottom here. But this is another one where we talked about in the Pac-12 not having any teams, any long shots that can make any noise. I can't give you one in good conscience here that anyone at the bottom that has like a realistic. If you wanted to people to NC State or Miami or those or Sprinkle, I've seen some people. Not for me. I think the only one that made any sense was the early Louisville prices, which we said aren't around anymore. There's just nobody here at the bottom that has a realistic shot.
I sprinkled a little bit of pizza money on Miami, 28-1, but I mean, I have this pizza money there. Again, I love our Florida State Clemson position. I can't emphasize that enough. If you can shop around, find possibly an over 4 on Georgia Tech. I have made that bet personally. Last I saw, Circa might have had it, but if there's not a 4 available, shop around. Circa might have that.
I agree.
I haven't. I've been on vacation, so I haven't checked the entire season win total board in a little bit. But that's the last place that I saw it still had over 4 there. If you're really into shopping around, I think that's a decent bet to make there. So we got Syracuse under. We got that in the book. We got our 2 conference futures. We got a nice head-to-head in North Carolina. I like that. I think that's enough action for the ACC, a conference that, I haven't talked about this, but I mean, I think the Pac-12 is better than the ACC. I think the Big 12 is more balanced than the ACC. Obviously, the SEC and Big 10 are better than this conference. I mean, I think it's the worst Power 5 conference right now, particularly you get past the top 2. Do you agree with that?
No, I'm with it. You know what? They really, in terms of like the business strategy of college football, they really screwed up with that long-term TV deal where they didn't add anybody to the conference. They made the TV deal way too far out, and that's created the opportunity for the SEC and the Big Ten to come in and then do the recruiting to invest the conference and up the TV deals. And so, in terms of the finances, they're losing the battle here. And now even with the Pac-12 somehow is with a lot of good coaching hires and recruiting has turned it. So I agree with you. They're the worst Power 5 conference right now, and probably on the decline in terms of this might be a conference. Who knows? What the future looks like of it, especially if a couple of their topper teams get poached. So yeah, it's falling on some hard times now for a lot of programs. So it would be one where I'm not sure what the future of this looks like.
Agree. Could easily see a Florida State or Clemson getting poached to the SEC. There's talk of maybe a couple teams getting poached to the Big Ten. So. I don't think the future's that great. And outside of Clemson and Florida State, I just don't see it at a lot of these places here. I will say, though, we'll end a little bit on a positive. I did a lot of these stadiums. My stadium tour was a bunch of ACC schools. Beautiful area of the country, the Virginias, the Carolinas. I'll give a positive there on the tour. I've been in worse parts, to say the least. But do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think we got some good action here on this one, and it'll be a probably a chalky conference, but I think some interesting storylines here to see if anybody can kind of step up and challenge the two big dogs. But no, it's a good one to wrap up here for now.
Guys, make sure you're subscribed to Hit the Books YouTube channel so you get notified in real time whenever a new episode drops or we go live. If you enjoy our content, please smash the like button. If you're listening in audio form, please rate and review 5 stars. You can also follow us on Twitter at Hit the Books and at The Hammer HQ on Twitter. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. For our producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips, I'm Brad Powers. You just watched Hit the Books.